What's happened over the last few years, you being a GP, for you to then have this sudden change of direction again, where you've decided to come into property?
I think for me it's been security. I've always, maybe it's because I went through homelessness that I'm thinking about security, but I felt that I need to do something that allows me to not be in that position ever again, to make sure my family and my children don't go through that. But also it's kind of inspired me to support other people, make sure that if they are going through that, then they get the support they need to get out of that. I always think back to my situation. You know, my mum has a saying that she shares, that do not take refuge in regrets and worries.
In this episode of Liam J. Ryan, the Dealmaker podcast, I am here today with one of my inner circle graduates, Asad, who has gone from being homeless to property investor and securing his first high cash flowing property in less than 8 weeks. This is going to be an incredible session. Asad, it's great to have you with me today. So just before we get started, could you tell everybody whereabouts in the UK that you're from?
Hi Liam. I'm based in northwest London, Stanmore specifically. And just been there most of my life.
Okay, great. And what profession other than property do you currently do?
So I'm a GP by profession.
GP,
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we talk about being homeless. Could you take us back to where your journey started and really what happened to get you into a position where you said, I want to become a property investor?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in the UK, but I lived my first few years of my life in Africa, in Congo.
Oh.
And over there, you know, it's not the safest country. So we actually lost our home during an uprising and a war over there.
Wow.
And then we moved over to the UK. Not quite refugees, but almost at that level. And just over the years, you know, we've kind of lived through the system. So I think in about 2006, we were evicted from our house just before I was starting university. So we were placed in hotel accommodation and then a hostel. And I started my university from the room of a hostel.
Wow. If you can go back to that time, if you don't mind, what impact did that have on you as a young male in this country, living with your mum, now being evicted? What was actually going on for you at that time?
It's funny, actually. Now that I reflect back, I don't think I realised how serious the situation was. I think, you know, my mum really looked after us, protected us from all the issues that we were going through. So we kind of just went along with it. And you know, my dad was in Africa. He's working there. So it was a tough time, but I don't think I realised how serious the situation was.
And during that time, it was almost like fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
Did you go through a mental change? Did you make some type of promise or pledge to yourself that you were going to change your life? What were you saying? What sort of type of language did you tell yourself to then go and become a doctor?
So I think by that time I'd already got a place in university to study medicine, so that security was already there. But I think over the years I kind of just went with it, rolled with it, see where it goes. I think it's only after a few years of reflecting that I realised that, you know, this is my situation, this is where I am. But it really didn't get me down. I think in essence I just felt like I just need to succeed now. I'm becoming a doctor. Whatever my situation is, I'm like every other medical student right now, so I'll get there.
Wow, I really love that attitude because you could have gone and done what lots of people do and get full of self-pity and poor me and, hey, I was pretty much a refugee and, hey, the system's not fair. But you just said, hey, that's my situation. What an incredible situation to be in, actually, you know, in medical school, doing your medical degrees and being on a trajectory to be a doctor, everyone would think, oh my goodness, you've hit the jackpot. But as we know, the corporate world, going through university, becoming a top professional in your field is not necessarily all what it's cut out to be. So what's happened over the last few years, you being a GP, for you to then have this sudden change of direction again, where you've decided to come into property?
I think for me it's been security. I've always, maybe it's because I went through homelessness that I'm thinking about security, but I felt that I need to do something that allows me to not be in that position ever again, and to make sure my family, my children don't go through that. But also it's kind of inspired me to support other people, make sure that if they are going through that, then they get the support they need to get out of that. And I always think back to my situation. You know, my mum has a saying that she shares, she's that, do not take refuge in regrets and worries. And that's, I almost remind myself on a regular basis, and I remind my patients sometimes. And so I think that's just inspired me to not want to be in that situation. And I've tried a few different things. I'm working as a GP, I'm in a partnership. I've tried, forex trading, I've tried different ventures here and there. And each time I've just found that, one, I don't have the time to put into it, but also two, I don't have the right support, the mentorship that I needed. And so property, I wanted to do for about 5-6 years, because I just found that once you get property, and since I've bought my property, I found that, the value's gone up without me having to do anything. All I've done is pay my mortgage, and suddenly I've got a bit of extra money in that.
Great.
So yeah, it's given me that insight into how secure it can be.
Yeah, it's mad how this whole thing's like a 360.
Yes.
You're faced with homelessness, and now fast forward all these years later, you now know how important it is to have security,
Absolutely.
to have property, and really that peace of mind that no one can come and take it away from you. You've got your own house. You mentioned to me earlier, you've got a wife, you've got a 2.5-year-old daughter. Obviously, being a GP, there's a lot of pressure. So what were the other reasons why you decided to come into property?
Well, I think having gone through what I've gone through, I've realised that having some sort of stability is needed. When you look at sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the main basic thing is shelter, food. When you have that, then you don't need to worry about it. As long as you're worrying about it, you're always just stressing about that. You're not thinking ahead. You can't focus on other goals. So for me, it was, what can I do to support people, get a shelter over their head, make sure there's food on the table so that they can now focus on the next step in their life. So
Fantastic.
That's where property and that mission has come in.
Well, look, I love the fact you're saying it's a mission, right? I think that's incredible, because when something is a mission, it's like, this is a non-negotiable thing.
Exactly.
I love the fact you've used that word. Yeah. So look, you found me somewhere, probably on YouTube or Facebook, and then I was popping up. You probably...
You still are.
You're still popping up, right? You came to one of my probably preview events or webinars or in-person events.
That's right.
You would have come to my advanced 3-day training, the Property Millionaire Bootcamp, and then you would have got a place on my very exclusive high-level mentoring program, and you're one of my inner circle members. You joined us in November last year, so you've been with us literally just a few months. What is the strategy that you've decided to start with initially, and why?
So I've started with rent-to-rent, service accommodation, possibly going into HMO, but I just want to understand how rent-to-rent works. The main reason is, although initially I was being convinced to, because of my time constraints, go into sort of commercial conversions, and you might not have enough time to succeed in this initially, I just found rent-to-rent was a bit easier. I'm just in a few networks and a few WhatsApp groups, and I just found opportunities coming left, right and centre.
Fantastic.
So landlords were looking for people, and I just felt that, maybe I can have a chat and see where it goes.
Great. And look, what you've done is the right thing. You've focused on a strategy. You've done everything needed, set your company up, got into a position where you're networking. Like you said, you're in a number of WhatsApp groups where landlords are.
Yeah.
Opportunities have come up. I know you got close to a deal not so long ago, and then the deal was lost because the agent gave it to somebody else. But then a week later, you actually secured your first deal. Now, when you had the conversation with that landlord and you explained that you were probably a relocation company and you work with landlords and you give fixed rate, guaranteed rent, and you take the property for so many years, when the landlord agreed to do the deal with you, what went through your mind at that point? How did it make you feel? What were you saying about yourself? What was that moment like? Because I know for a lot of people tuning in, that first deal sometimes seems impossible. It's not impossible. You've done it in less than 8 weeks. So how did that make you feel in that moment?
I think the biggest thing was just relief, because I'd invested so much money, time, and I think a lot of it was also, with family, there's a lot of uncertainty. What are you doing? Is this the right choice?
You've just invested £30,000 into mentoring.
How is this going to work? So, I spent a lot of effort just convincing people and explaining, look, let's trust the process, let's see how it goes. And so to get that first deal, I really felt relaxed. I just felt, hopefully it'll make money. Even if it doesn't, for me, it's an investment. I'm going to learn, I'm going to train myself and learn from those mistakes if I make any, and then the next one will be bigger. But speaking to the people even today with the other mentors, it sounds like, there's lots of opportunity here, so hopefully it'll be successful.
So what have we done for you over the last 60 days or so that's given you the peace of mind to go and do that deal? What support have you had from me and the great mentors that are in my inner circle team?
Yeah, I think from day one, I think it's just been positivity. When you're surrounded by people, I think one thing that I took away from one of the sessions was you are the average of the 5 people around you. So the more you hang around the type of people you want to be, it rubs off on you. So I've just felt like, this is going to happen regardless. Whether I succeed now or not, I will succeed at some point. So that's been huge. And then I think the mentoring, from day one, sitting down with some of the mentors, Phil, for example, just going through my timetable, I think that was the first step. And just finding where am I going to find the time to do what I need to do. That gave me structure. And then since then, there's just been lots of confidence. I've attended almost maybe 80% of the online sessions. With Tanner and Rob.
Great.
And it took me about 4 weeks to kind of try thinking about different strategies. And then when the opportunity came, I went for this.
Brilliant.
And with the right support, it just gave me confidence.
Well, look, you're a testament. Obviously, we're there to support and help you and guide you, and my team is incredible. And ultimately, you have invested, but when you pay attention, and you're certainly paying attention, and you're turning up. And my understanding from that first deal, worst case scenario, you're looking at around £7,200 a year profit.
Yeah.
But you're hoping with the right client, we don't want to overcook it, but you could be as high as maybe £10,000 or £12,000 a year from just that first deal. Is that correct?
Hopefully, yeah.
Pretty decent, right?
Not too bad.
Now, I know GPs get paid pretty much okay, but I know they get paid less now than they used to, and there's a lot of cuts in this type of stuff. And obviously, as a GP, but just one of these deals, let's just say it does you an extra £7,000 a year.
Yeah.
What sort of impacts is this going to have on you, your 2.5-year-old, the relationship with your wife? Yeah. What does this do for you and the family?
I think it just gives us the ability to just not stress as much.
Great.
As much as I've got a GP salary, I'm still always, every penny I'm counting. You've got nursery fees. Sometimes when you're earning a bigger salary, you don't get the benefits that the country provides. And so I'm having to pay for everything. Yeah. So this will be huge. I think it'll just give me some relief. Hopefully give me a bit of time to enjoy a holiday as well, which I do. But I'd like to not stress about the money after going on holidays.
Even if only that one property pays for you and your family to have an all-inclusive 5-star holiday somewhere in the world where you can enjoy and have fun, then that's a fantastic start for sure. Where do you see yourself being by the end of this year? Have you got a target? How many properties would you like to have in the portfolio?
Yeah, I told my wife the other day, in 6 months I want 10. She's just, what are you talking about? How is that possible? But I really want at least 4 to 5 properties.
Great.
This one's rent to rent. There's a landlord that is potentially showing me another that could turn into a HMO. So, yeah, I think the next few months maybe another property.
Great.
And then if I can get 5 by the end of the year, I'll be through the.
Brilliant.
I'll be really
you got to remember, obviously, the more the merrier. But I'm just going to give you some top tips now and do like a mini micro mentoring session on the podcast, please, if that's okay. So some really important things. Don't grow too fast.
Okay.
Make sure that every deal you bring in is profitable. Mm-hmm. Have monthly managed accounts done on every single deal, so you have your P&L. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you are building great relationships with even more landlords. Mm-hmm. Dot the I's, cross the T's. Make sure you check everything out. Certainly, we've seen it before where some people get that 5th or 6th deal, they don't check it with us, and it was a bad deal. So make sure, even later this year, you check it all out with us, and just make sure that you stick with us for hopefully many, 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 many years, and just keep everything sense checked. Manage your diary correctly, and of course, happy wife, happy life. I know you're going to be putting in time to spend with the wife and your 2.5-year-old, and enjoy the process.
Absolutely.
Enjoy the process, and don't be afraid to just reach out and ask for help.
Fantastic.
This is what we're going to do. Let's come back and do another podcast at the end of the year. If not before, we're going to be tracking your journey, and then we will explain to the audience not how you just got your first deal, but we'll explain how you went from 0 to 5 or 6 deals, generating what could be tens and tens of thousands of pounds per year. For people tuning into this, what words of wisdom or any top tips you'd like to share?
I mentioned it earlier. I think just one thing that my mum said, do not live your life in regrets and worries. I think you make a decision, think it through, get the right support, get the right help, make sure it stacks up. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's a learning curve, and just fight for your next one.
Excellent.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing. I love that. And if there's anyone tuning in now that is looking to work closely with me and my team, would you recommend my mentoring program? And if so, why would you recommend it?
Yeah, for sure. I think especially if you have no idea about what you're doing with property, but even if you do, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is I'm surrounded by people that have been successful with property. So the only way you're really going to succeed is by constantly engaging with them. I think this mentoring opportunity, it just allows direct contact, to be able to send a message when you need to get the support. I think that's phenomenal.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I'd definitely recommend it.
Well, you know what? I'm really proud. It's great to have you here today. A big well done. Looking forward to doing many of these with you. So there we have it. Asad in the house on the podcast. What an incredible story. Getting vulnerable, talking about his homelessness, talking about his struggles within being a GP and in the system of the NHS, and just fighting through, doing whatever he takes. So if we can do it, you can do it too. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.